Hello again, my friends.
Hello, we're back.
Can you believe it? We got another one.
And another one is crazy.
Yeah, we got another mysterious monolith. Remember, we saw the one in Utah, right?
Yep.
The one just popped up out of nowhere in Utah,
Mm-hmm.
and then it disappeared. And now, all of a sudden, there's another one on a Romanian hillside.
Now, what's going on here? This is really getting interesting.
This is very, very interesting. So, why a monolith?
I don't know. You would think that there would be information on it, or there would be some clue or some writing.
Yeah, no writing that can be perceived. Interesting. And, of course, we're not saying these are put there by aliens, because in my mind, I don't feel that they are. I just don't, it just doesn't feel like it. But I think somebody has a message.
Somebody has a message to get people to start thinking, I feel.
Yeah, because, when you go in on anywhere, Twitter, any sort of newspaper, whatever, anywhere you look, there's one topic that's always blasted everywhere. And of course, it's the word that starts with a C, the plague upon the land.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I think what might be going on here is somebody maybe is trying to get our attention to the real big event, which is going on, which is the changes in consciousness and changes in our very DNA. That's what I feel. So, we had done a video talking about the Freemasons and different secret societies, and somebody made a comment like, they're not all evil. Well, we don't think that they're all evil. And even in certain societies, there's always, people that are of the light, people that are, have their heart in the right place. And then, of course, things do get twisted and perverted at certain levels. But, there could be most definitely a group of people out there that are trying to get us to shift our consciousness and get us to look in a different area instead of, the news just talking about the one subject all the time. I mean, if it isn't the election, selection controversy going on.
That's right. Yeah.
Which, all will be revealed, and it's
will.
in the process of being revealed right now in this apocalyptical time that we find ourselves in. So, the monolith, I think that what they're doing, this is what my feeling is that they want us to think about the movie 2001. And of course, you could really go deep into this. And I think I have on some older videos, maybe from like 3 years ago, had talked about it. And again, we always get taken to these secret societies, because, when we start talking about these people that make these movies, make these, come up with these books, almost all the time they are, here we go again, Freemasons and in other secret societies. They're people in the know. And, I was, blown away somewhat when I was first doing research to just realize how many people that are, say, poets, great artists, amazing writers, people that have really influenced our whole culture and history, they're again tied to these secret societies. And so this monolith appears in the movie 2001, and we see, they look like apes. I'm not sure if they were trying to say this is what Australopithecus or Ramapithecus or Homo erectus was like. Very, very ape-like behavior. This thing just appears out of nowhere, and they're all curious, looking at it. They start hitting it, throwing stones at it, trying to eat it. And, it triggers something in them. And then they evolve. They change.
I like that storyline, but I've never seen this movie.
It's an old movie. So, the special effects and stuff by today's standards are going to be a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because the other overriding thing in this is AI.
Oh.
So maybe they're also kind of warning us about that.
Yes, like I was talking about yesterday with the dragon and AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting how we just touched on all that. Now, this seems like this is putting all that together. So in Arthur C. Clarke, and check out him too. He's an interesting one for sure. Talk about connections. In the Space Odyssey 2001, monoliths are machines built by an unseen extraterrestrial species. In the series of novels and the films based on these three monoliths, three, are discovered in the solar system by hominids and humans. The response of the characters to their discovery drives the plot of the series. It also influences the fictional history of the series, particularly by encouraging humankind to progress with technological development and space travel.
That's really interesting. Very interesting here. And it just makes me think, I don't know, did these things come down and trigger a certain frequency, perhaps?
Well, in the story, I guess that's what it is. It's somehow it's triggering a mutation. Maybe they were giving off some cosmic rays, some gamma rays, perhaps.
Perhaps, yes. That sounds so interesting.
Excuse me there. Just like the Hulk. Again, the gamma radiation changed the Hulk. It did, at least in the story. So the first monolith appears at the beginning of the story, set in prehistoric times. It's discovered by a group of hominids and somehow triggers a considerable shift in evolution, starting with the ability to use tools and weaponry. It's later revealed that thousands of other monoliths exist elsewhere in the solar system. They show them on the dark side of the moon and moons of Saturn and Titan. Now, here I feel like maybe they're referencing the original quote-unquote creator gods.
Perhaps, it's a very interesting concept. It's an interesting theory, and it's just super fascinating all the way around. And I'm kind of enjoying this. It's like a mystery when you're a little child and unraveling something.
It is. It's great. It's just like unwrapping a Christmas present in some ways for those of us that are into all this. And again, my personal feel on the vibe off of those things is I don't think these are extraterrestrial, but I think they're trying to point us in a certain direction, get us to open our eyes a little wider. Now, I was starting to talk about the creator gods, and some have talked about the seven, and Cindy has seen when she's peered into the sun.
Yes, 7 creator gods is what I've seen, and they don't look human.
No, curiously enough, they're very, very interesting, and one of them looks very much like Yaldabaoth, very much like Iao, the demiurge. Very interesting too, because their consciousness is imprinted on the sun, which of course the sun is the bringer of life to us here, and also the transmitter of knowledge. Light is information. Mm-hmm. So there you go. And also the sun is also a relay in the bigger scheme of things, as when we've looked at the blow up of a brain and you see a neural network, it looks just like the stars. And, there's these currents, and we've talked about a lot of different types of currents and electric universe theory. Birkeland currents are a major factor. And so there's also the line of thinking that our galactic central sun is yet another relay sending out information, perhaps from source God with the big G, to each of the other suns in its area, and relaying info, which gets relayed through that sunlight to us. And hence, there again, that's the real reason sunblock gets pushed.
I do believe that too. It's just such a beautiful symphony of life when you start looking at it.
And also the reason why the skies are gray and have been gray for so long now, with, again, trying to block the information from being downloaded into our cells, into our DNA, and changing us. So, very interesting. The extraterrestrial species that built the monoliths is never described in much detail, but some knowledge of its existence is given to Dave Bowman after he is transported by the Stargate to the Cosmic Zoo, as detailed in the 1968 novel 2001, A Space Odyssey, and its 1982 sequel, 2010, Odyssey 2. The thing that was cool about that one was the explosion of Jupiter, I think, in the movie, but in the book, it was Saturn. Because what happens is, the gaseous giant ignites, and now there's 2 suns in the sky. And all those moons, some of them become habitable planets. But we're told, don't go on Europa. And Europa, by the way, is like a frozen ice ball, is what we're told. Possibly with seas underneath. Perhaps because there are some beings there already that they want to keep separate from us. Fascinating stuff.
It is very fascinating. And where do they come up with these stories? Sometimes I imagine that there's like this vault under the Vatican, and some people are allowed in there to get a peek of some of the true history, and maybe they write books or movies out of that.
Well, there's a couple of different possibilities. One is people are, truly getting downloads from higher sources. They could be able to remote view, as we have done, And the other possibility is that they're, in league with some secret societies that really know the complete story. And again, when we research some of these people, we find out, they belong to these secret societies. There you go. So the extraterrestrial species that built the monoliths developed intergalactic travel millions or even billions of years before the present time. So that's why, again, and this is just from a novel which turned into a couple movies, but again, everything is being revealed to a degree. And if a civilization developed millions or even billions of years before ours, which is more than likely, most definitely they would appear as gods. I mean, how couldn't they? And yet, again, they would be beings like us, just along the evolutionary path.
Right. I feel like it's maybe putting something out there for a gentle knowing or a gentle understanding of who we might become.
So these explorers, these beings that of a very, very high intelligence and abilities, they explored all around the universe, discovered life was quite common, but intelligent life was often stunted in its development or died out prematurely. Hence, they set about to foster it. The firstborn were in many ways physically different from human beings, though from another point of view they were fundamentally the same. They were creatures made of flesh and blood, and hence, like human beings, they were mortal. However, the evolutionary development projects they began would, by their nature, require very long time spans to complete, far longer than the lifetimes of their creators. Therefore, the aliens created increasingly complex automated machines to oversee and carry out their projects over eons, and now we're delving into that AI side of things. When they encountered a living world that had features in favor of evolution of intelligent life, they left behind the monoliths as remote observers that were also capable of taking a variety of actions according to the wishes of their creators. And one such planet encountered when it was still quite young was Earth. They also observed Jupiter and its watery moon Europa. The decaying ecology of Mars was also visited, but passed over in favor of the more fruitful locations like Earth. So the aliens left behind 3 monoliths to observe and enact their plan to encourage humans to pursue technology and space travel. As described in Clarke's novel, the firstborn discovered later how to transfer their consciousness onto computers, and thus they became thinking machines. In the end, they surpassed even this achievement and were able to transfer entirely from physical to non-corporeal forms. The lords of the galaxy, omniscient, immortal, and capable of traveling at great speeds. The firstborn had abandoned physical form, but their creations, the monoliths, remained. And these continue to carry out their original assignments. So, very, very interesting, is it not?
Oh my gosh, I'm totally fascinated.
So this one now in Romania, we had the one in Utah. They didn't tell us the exact location, although some of you have told me that Rex found it. Rex the Detective. Yes. Yeah, that would be a good show. Rex the Detective. Get him out there and discovering all these locations. Yeah. So now we have the one in Romania. And so the specific location is in Batka Domnai, Hill, which is located in the city of Piatra Neamăt, in the northeastern side of Neamt County, I should say. And so this was discovered on the 26th, and so it's 13 feet tall. One in Utah was 12 feet tall. This one has interesting little circular indentations in it as well.
I know it just looks as simple as someone taking a welder to it and making these loop-de-loops, but we don't necessarily know that. What if it's code?
Maybe it is. So it appears to be covered in concentric scribble-like rings.
Yep.
And this is the location in Romania, which I was wondering if they're on the same line. This is at 46 degrees north. Salt Lake City, for instance, is about 40 degrees north. And we had said, like Utah, there was one that appeared in Seattle 2 decades earlier and then disappeared. Mm-hmm. Now, some say that was just simply an art exhibit. And so, I don't know if we count that one with these two. Is there going to be a third if the Seattle one was nothing but an art exhibit? Or is the Romanian one the third? Is there significance in that? Well, 3 is the number of divinity for one.
Yes, 3 is number of divinity. And I don't know. We'll just have to wait and watch and see.
It's curious. But to me, it's pointing towards this. I've talked about this before, 12-strand DNA. And basically activating Kundalini, which is happening, which is in turn going to develop the light body, the Merkaba, make us into fully multidimensional beings at some point where we will be able to be like these beings that transcended physical limitation. And, just think about, I think I want to go see Alpha Centauri. And then there you are. That type of thing. And Alpha Centauri's close. That's right in our neighborhood. So cosmic rays are changing us. That is a fact. And here we see a 1987 supernova release cosmic rays that changed DNA and triggered consciousness. And, all these, I really think there's paid people out there to debunk things. I think that's just a given, that there are people that are being paid to debunk things left and right. We had talked about all these shifts in consciousness. And for me, my shift happened back in that time frame. It was like 1987-ish that I started to really get on this particular aspect of a spiritual journey. I mean, I was always on a spiritual journey since I was a little kid, like 5 years old. But where I started to go totally into this direction. And, I had friends, and so many of my, closest friends were very, very fundamentalists. And, bringing me to the fundamentalist churches and things like that, and trying to get me to view everything that's not what they believe everything else is just from Satan. Everything else is pure evil. Oh, yeah. And so, when I started to research it from the point of view of, well, let me get to understand who the enemy is. And then I started to realize this isn't the enemy. This feels like truth. Mm-hmm. This feels like this is stuff that has been demonized on purpose because it's going to lead to realizations, which is going to weaken the power structure of those in charge, and those are ruling this planet. So, we had talked about all these different events that were going to happen, and there was channel work saying 1987, 1988, we're going to get big upgrades. We're going to enter the photon belt. The energy waves are going to be starting to come, and it's going to change us. And in 1988, when my daughter woke up us in the middle of the night, and I was giving her a bottle at 3 a.m., and all of a sudden, I'm in the rocking chair, and all of a sudden I noticed everything is energy all around me, and I could see energy waves. It was like Neo in the Matrix, that you could see the programming all around you, and that blew my mind, and so I went to the eye doctor. And ended up going to the eye doctor several times in the next couple of years because I could see energy all of a sudden everywhere. And it really freaked me out. But this is why.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it's very exciting too. And, it's my understanding that the pineal gland, the larger it gets, it may have some effect on eyesight. So that's like a common side effect for awakening, and you're not sick. It might be good to have it checked out just in case, but that does happen to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I could start to see the energy fields around people and everything. And so, I was like 22, 23 at that time, and it blew my mind, and I really thought something was wrong, and So my brother-in-law at the time said, he was a doctor. He said, "Oh, you better get that checked out." So I did, but everything was fine. At that time, my vision was perfect, and yet I could see even more. So in 1987, something happened and the world felt it. The first globally synchronized meditation, commonly known as the first Harmonic Convergence, took place. Tens of thousands of people gathered all around the world at sacred sites around the planet to coordinate their intention. What intention? Jose Arguelles, who initiated the meditation, put it this way: there comes a point when things have to change. Boy, do they have to change now. Vibration signal was sent out. Where the signal was coming from, whether it was coming from our genetic coding, whether it was coming from the earth, whether it was coming from outer space, or whether it was coming from all those, this signal went out and people responded to a signal. It's very much like when a species gets a signal to change in the direction of its migration pattern. And it was from that year on that the human mind began to open up to more than it had ever opened up before. Even though the status quo resisted these new ideas, more and more people began seeing through the old paradigm of war, environmental destruction, poverty, slavery, and materialism, and instead opened their eyes and minds to a more holistic worldview. And people began questioning the many structures of society, and suppressed information began to resurface and become available to the masses. Ever since 1987, human consciousness has experienced a notable acceleration. And, this is, now we're going to an all new level. Absolutely. Yeah, I noticed it in my energy work because, like 5-6 years ago, the energy I felt was a fraction of what I feel now. It's accelerating exponentially. So, all these people that wanted to put down all this type of thing as woo-woo new age concepts, no, they just really have a locked down consciousness of their own. And they're being kept in the box. And that box is a prison that's been designed by these powers that be to keep our consciousness at a very, very low, fear-based vibrational level. You better not do this. You better not do that. Don't buy tarot cards. You're going to go to hell. I mean, well, all those pictures are going to do maybe are going to trigger something that's undeveloped in you and help to, increase your intuitive abilities.
Well, yeah, and just like now, back then, now things really, really need to change. And what are they using to keep us down? That fear-based mentality with this plague upon the land and giving us these treatments that might alter things for the worse,
Yeah, and thus, my library of books, went from maybe 100 to like 500 overnight, as I was just gobbling up everything in sight and ordering things down at the local quote unquote, new age store, having her special order stuff for me. And, it was just such a growth period for me. And, they come through in stages as we've just gotten like 50 books, which, I'm mostly done with. Still have a few to go. We just did this in like the last month or so. So, now lately what we've been doing is we turn off the computer. We only watch a little bit here and there once we're done with our work. And then we just read. If we're not reading and learning, and it's always stuff that we can learn and grow from spiritually, then we're just in meditation or doing QiGong, doing our mantras. So cosmic rays and human DNA, this is what it's all about. This is what everything that's going on right now. This is the real deal. And this is why that medication that they keep talking about, that's going to be out anytime now, and there's so many different ones being put out by these different companies. This is all about slowing this or stopping it. This is what they want to do. They don't want us waking up. They won't be able to control us. We can see right through everything. And also we're transforming. So before delving into the significance of the year 1987, which again, that was that supernova with that blast of energy. And it's all about the cosmic rays. Cosmic rays are light waves of a very high frequency that have been shown to transform human DNA, thereby affecting human evolution. And, I finished Robert Felix's book a few weeks back, which is all about that. Grand solar minimum. He talked about the ice age now. He talked about not by fire, but by ice. And then he talked about cosmic rays and evolutionary leaps, because this has happened before. And so, when we look at the human family tree and say, well, what happened to Ramapithecus, Australopithecus, Homo erectus, Homo habilis? We know we have some Neanderthal in us, we have some Denisovan in us as well. And Cro-Magnon was apparently the first fully human, maybe more human than human, to quote White Zombie, as well, and perhaps related to Atlantis, perhaps related to the Aesir or the Anunnaki. All interesting stuff. Very, very interesting. But it's these time periods in which some species just disappear and new ones pop up.
Yes, and they keep doing that. And I bet you, when they disappeared, they probably got maybe a little bit out of control, or they started to discover their abilities, so they had to do a big sweep, perhaps.
As it says right here, the correspondence between ancient cosmic ray levels and sudden evolutionary leaps in human technology and art are facts. Not debatable. As far back as 1973, Carl Sagan, I know you guys are familiar with him, spoke about how cosmic rays cause DNA mutations and would have affected human evolution. NASA even admits this, but of course they focus on the negative. They say, this is all going to just bring about more cancers and more disease. They don't say that it could bring about a positive evolutionary change.
Right. They get us scared and they say, these cosmic rays have never, ever touched Earth before. We just don't know what's going to happen.
Supernova 1987A. So we'll thank that supernova for sending us this explosion in consciousness and getting it kickstarted.
Thank you.
So, there's scientific reasons, and this is from MIT, cosmic rays, neutrons, and the mutation rate in evolution. Now, of course, again, coming from the power structure that really is the power structure that rules this planet, who also in many cases are providing funding for these schools that are doing these studies. While they might show that, it can cause mutations, they're going to focus on increased rates of cancer and everything negative.
Well, they want to implant that in the mind, so maybe we'll manifest it.
Well, yeah, when in reality, what this is this is the key to us unlocking the locks on the prison planet that we are waking up to realize that we have been living in.
And we're getting there slow but sure.
So, pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Excellent stuff.
As always, guys, thank you for being part of this family. We love you guys and we appreciate you. And thank you for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.